Buenos dias, hermanos y hermanas around the world, friends in America, Latin America, Canada, Japan, China, and the rest of the world, as we move each day into the movement of redemption. This planet Earth and all the inhabitants therein must have to grow in grace and in the knowledge of Him, the Creator of the universe. Growing in grace in the knowledge of Him will empower us to understand, stand for the truth. But friends, growing into the knowledge, as we studied in the previous Radical series, we study about new familiar texts, new meaning. But growing in grace requires prayer, my friend. It necessitates our actions of our heart. What does it mean? Friends, counsel is given to unto us that pray most earnestly for the understanding of the times in which we live, for a fuller conception of His purpose, and for efficiency in soul saving. In totality, at the onset of everything, it's about redemption. It's about soul saving. Growing in grace must be connected to saving souls. Growing in the knowledge of Him is simply to share, to save souls. It's not to become an issue that we become knowledgeable in things without into the soul saving. So it requires prayer from us. We need to pray most earnestly to understand the movement of this planet Earth. How the animals behave, like this cat going around. How humanity behaves. How the natures behave around. As we understand, there are times, as you live in China, as you live in Japan, as you are living in Indonesia, hampered by calamities and earthquakes. As the Philippines is being threatened by this one, the big one, as California and around the world are experiencing an unusual movements of time, we need to pray earnestly for the understanding of the times, for efficiency in soul saving. For such a long time, we've had a lot of saving. We have a lot of baptism. We have a lot of movements. 10 were baptized, but 11 lost or backslide. Where is that efficiency? Why there's inefficiency in keeping souls, in saving souls? Because we need to share. We need also, as proclaimers of truth, as we've been accounted to share the truth, to understand our times. Just in our previous series that we have, in Radical Series number 5, we understand that God has designed a special message for the special people in a very special time. It is a special time because this is the closing time of redemption. Christ is providing us closing messages, that these closing messages is right on time. It's right on the context of the movement of this planet Earth. It is an Earth that has its season. That's why in each season, we need to have something to understand. The meat, the food, the spiritual food. That's at what it's called to be the closing message. Because that meat in due season is that present truth. It's the truth of the time. The dynamics, the reality of time, that is present, not absent. That's the reason that Christ is so active in redemption, because His doctrine is being given to us. It's just like the rain that falls in us. It's an active act of God. It's the truth that we need. It's the rain that falls. It's the doctrine that we need to behold, because that doctrine is the sealing message of our faith. And that sealing message, my friend, that sealing message will empower us to feel the importance of time, the urgency of time, and this urgency of time will produce a loud cry. To cry to the world that Christ is coming and redemption is given. And those who will reject the message, it is a cry of concern. Why it's called loud cry? Because we cannot contain our heart. We need to reach out our loved ones. We spend millions to reach our relatives, our brothers and sisters. It's the real loud cry. You cry because you feel the pain, the emotional pain that your bloodline will be lost. So these are the things, dynamics of life that Christ Himself delivered the message. What made this special? We are special people, peculiar. Why we are peculiar? Because we are to be called as a special. Because we are the one to surround the throne of God after the 24 elders. You are also the generations that will sing the song of redemption. That we are the only generations who can sing that song. Special, my friend. It's not only special because of the song that we are going to sing. It is because special, Christ Himself has come down from heaven to deliver the message to this planet Earth. Each human being on this planet Earth, God is providing a special message. It is a special in every sense of the word because He Himself came to this planet Earth to deliver the message. Special only for all of us. Irregardless of your positions, irregardless of your professions, this last closing message of Christ has to be received, not to be rejected, has to be received by each of us. Because this message that Christ provided, He delivered it by Himself to assure the victory. Christ in us, in this message, for victory is assured. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. The question now to increase our knowledge, where can we find that message? How is to be understood? When was this message delivered? Where can we read it? Where can we find these messages? To the scholars of all religious faith, to the intellectuals of all institutions, to the doctors of the law, to the doctors of theology, let us come together and learn the beauty of that physical deliverance and learn to understand that physical delivery of no less than the Son of God came to this planet Earth to deliver that very special apocalyptic closing message to become the properties of the remnants. And these revelations has been given by God by the river, at the Mount of Olives, and in the island of Patmos. These are closing messages. These are God's closing prescription. It is called prescription because there is something in this generation called, quote unquote, described by Christ Himself as Laodicea. What is Laodicea? Blind and naked. A disease that needs to be prescribed. And this prescription only can be found by the river, at the Mount of Olives, at the island of Patmos. Because in this revelation, prescription of Christ, we can see the global movement, because every revelations and prescriptions of this river, Mount Olive and the island, talks about globalization. It is a movement that requires instructions and instructions for the final generations in our final movement. It is in the river, at the island, and at the mount. And the questions that will come to our mind, why on these three distinct locations? Why? So knowledge is going to increase. Why? We identify what is that messages? Is the messages of Christ. Where can we find it? On the river, by the river, at the mount, and at the island of Patmos. And why on these three distinct locations? It's distinct because river is an object of creation that is too big to deny. All of our eyes can see it. Every human being cannot deny the existence of a river. We experience the waters of the river. We've come to the river. We climb on a mountain. We go to an island, because these are distinct objects of nature that has a very distinct relevance for our lives, and especially for the message delivered by Christ. It is a distinct message to the distinct location, because in the Christ Triumphant in page 347 it says, "Let His truth be received into your heart, that you may be spiritualized by His living, sanctifying power." Then let the distinct message for this time be sent forth from watchman to watchman on the walls of Zion. Distinct message for this time. What is that message? Message to be proclaimed by the watchman. What is that watchman's proclaiming? When you're a watchman, you are proclaiming a distinct message. You watch. What is your doing? You watch what's going to happen. The danger is going to happen. You watch. So watchman is all about a warning message. Watchman on the walls of Zion. Page 347, paragraph 6. Watchmen on the walls of Zion are to be vigilant, and sleep not day or night. But if they have not received the message from the lips of Christ, their trumpets will give an uncertain sound. So if our message today does not correspond to the time of what Christ have delivered from His own lips, yes, it's a sound, but it's an uncertain. There's no certainty of that sound, according to the statement. Their trumpets will give an uncertain sound, because it is given, it is understood that every Seventh-day Adventist carries a trumpet of their own. Every layman, every ministers, every pastors, leaders have their own trumpets to sound. But the question is, are you sounding the right sound? The right sound can only be right when it comes from the lips of Jesus Christ. That's the reason why both ministers, brethren and sisters, God calls upon you, both ministers and lay persons. It hurts. Sometimes I am being misunderstood. But I'm just reading the counsels of the Spirit of prophecy. Ministers, lay persons, listen to His voice. Whose voice? Christ. As speaking to you through His word. Through His, Brother Soliano? No, through His word. From this word. Not from Brother Soliano, my friend. So my beloved friends, the river, where can we find the last message? From the river Olay and Hiddekel. Where else? From the Mount of Olives, from the island of Patmos. But why on the river? River, according to some scholars and theologians, the idea of the river in Scripture traces the landscape of redemptive history. Think about it. In the Garden of Eden, a river ran through the meadow to irrigate the produce of the land. Why God uses river? Because it traces the landscape of redemptive history. It moves. So our consciousness as Christians, our consciousness today as God-believing people, has to receive and to connect that river, that the river that comes from the mountain has to end to the seashore. It has to end its movement. So it traces the landscape of redemptive history. Why on the mountain? Because the mountain, in Psalms 30 verse 7, the term mountain also is used symbolically in the Bible. It is a natural image for stability. Mountain, look upon the Lord. Look up to His mountain. We are called to look up to that mountain. That's the reason why Christ delivered at the Mount of Olives His last prescription to this planet Earth. Why on the island? Why Christ has allowed John the Revelator to be isolated, to be sent to the island by the Roman Empire, instigated by the Jews. In Isaiah 41:1, island symbolizes, keep silence before me, O islands, and let the people, the Hebrews, renew their strength. Let them come near. It's a call. It's a movement. There's an actions to be done. Then let them speak. Let us come near together to judgment. Island is equated to judgment. That's the reason why in the entire book of Revelation, it's simply the only highlight, the landmark, the motive for the entire book of Revelation. Why it was written on an island? Because it talks about the judgment to come. It talks about the judgment of the Lord, that you will be proclaimed righteous in His sight. It talks about judgment, that those who will reject His message will go into the lake of fire. So my beloved friends, the closing instructions of Christ was given to the river at the mount, at the island of Patmos, for the closing generations in our closing moments. We will continue to study more the details of the river, the mount and the island, the connectivity, the amazing proclamation. Why the mount, the river and the island uses the term language, the same mount, the same message, the same people, and the same time. We'll study that one in the next succeeding series. The series that will unlock all our doubts, that will strengthen our faith to become the child of God, sharing and proclaiming the warning message of Jesus Christ. God bless us, and see you in the next series.